At this point, most followers of the channel know exactly how I feel about esports. The idea of competitive gaming on its face is great, but when you dive into the cultural reality behind the image, it's actually a cesspool. Esports companies rely on one thing and one thing alone: money. They need money to finance their offices, their tournaments, but most importantly, their lifestyle. And as with any business, money is essential. However, when it comes to esports organizations, the term financial black hole seems a hell of a lot more appropriate. This reality is borne out seemingly at all levels of the field. In the sewers of the industry are the Fortnite orgs, social circle disasters where a pyramid of children tricks other children into paying them for the privilege of just being involved, while a third group of children pass around the company like a hot potato. It's sad and also hilarious at the same time. I've done quite a few videos about that, by the way. There is everything from owners lying about their dad owning Epic Games to scam kids, to fake mansions, tax evasion, you name it, all of it. Basically, the sewers of the esports industry, to summarize, is exactly what you might expect. However, the apex of the industry isn't all that much better, and today I want to discuss what is arguably the most prominent branded company in all of esports, FaZe Clan, because it turns out that they are ridiculously overvalued and in pretty serious financial trouble, it seems. FaZe Clan, as far back as 2010 and 2011, has been a video games icon. I won't devolve into a history lesson on this group about how they started with trickshotters, made a YouTube channel, and then grew, etc., how they began or where they went, but over the years, the company has grown to a monumental size, with hundreds of millions of fans, or so they say, but more on that later. Hundreds of millions of fans, teams in a variety of games, and most recently a desire to take the stock public through an SPAC merger with an intended valuation of $1 billion. That's no small thing, and at the time, it made them, by far, the most valuable esports organization on the planet. The thing is, that may have been, probably was, a gross over-exaggeration which is now coming to light as the company updates their financial projections in a decidedly negative way. Now, before looking at those projections, it's important to understand context on what's actually happening behind the scenes. First, SPAC, S-P-A-C, stands for Special Purpose Acquisition Company, which loosely, in this particular scenario, means a shell company that acquires another company, thereby bringing that acquired company public onto the stock market through the ticker of the shell company used to buy it. Essentially, this is a way for companies to access the public market without going through the complicated and extensive traditional process of an IPO, which is an initial public offering. What is even more important is that SPAC acquisitions, on average, have overwhelmingly negative returns for their investors. Almost no SPAC acquisition long-term has ever had positive upside, and yet FaZe Clan, possibly the most visible and high-profile name in esports, is utilizing an SPAC merger to go public at an apparent $1 billion valuation. So what does that billion-dollar valuation get you? For starters, it gets you a business that is not profitable. According to public figures I could find, FaZe Clan reported $38 million of revenue in 2020, and most importantly, projected $50 million in expected revenue during 2021. That was at the time of their SPAC agreement. That matters because it shows a significant annual increase, and though the company may not be profitable right now, or for years into the future, access to public markets does not require a sound business model or profitability, it merely requires partnerships and hype. Now, hype is a FaZe Clan specialty. In 2020, their content prominently featured a $30 million mansion during the pandemic, as the company simultaneously applied for and received over $1 million in PPP funds, meant for small businesses to help them keep employees during a hard time. To me, that makes no sense, but even better, a few months prior, they had completed a $40 million capital raise with major strategic partners, which again, to me, makes absolutely no sense. FaZe Clan members are blatantly extravagant with their lifestyle, bankrolled by a company that continually expands its roster. They even had, I think, a kid, like an actual kid lying about their age to get involved, and then they bought it and ate it up and paid him. I don't know. That was a whole separate thing. I could probably do a video on that, but that's not for today. And now, they are attempting to access the public market for even more capital after all of this. Let's dig into what that might actually entail. This is an investor presentation from SEC Archives that gives a glimpse into their lofty projected revenue streams and their current business model snapshot. When looking at how the company advertises itself to investors, brands, sponsors, etc., outwardly, how they advertise, this is the perfect example. Here's some key takeaways. Current opportunities includes an entire section about international expansion. Opportunities of tomorrow includes metaverse/NFTs, and 50 million projected revenue for 2021 grows to 650 million by 2025. That's big, so what's the problem? Well, first things first, FaZe K, one of their long-standing members previously, was dabbling in NFT promotions long before the business itself made a move into that space, and his actions embroiled numerous different FaZe members in a financial scandal that eventually resulted in his complete dismissal. He and other members rug pulled their own fans, and while some were more guilty than others, with a few just along for the ride with no actual knowledge, it was indicative, at least to me, of how their image has been devolving over time. So, a group of influencers, expanding by the day, a large group of influencers living a disgustingly extravagant, for lack of a better term, party lifestyle, projecting $50 million in net revenue but not profitable as a business, and a valuation of $1 billion as they take the company public. How does that stack up to, let's say, other acquisitions in the space, or even just a similar, slightly related industry? Here's an example. FaZe Clan generated, at the time, $50 million projected revenue and is not profitable, but Barstool Sports, in contrast, generated approximately $100 million revenue, twice as much, and was profitable. FaZe Clan is attempting to debut on the public market with a valuation of $1 billion, yet Barstool Sports was acquired, at the time of these financials, for $450 million. Something is wrong with that picture. A company twice the expected value has half the expected revenue. What's really going on here? Well, after all of that context, we finally get to the meat and potatoes, because on April 28th of 2022, BRPM FaZe Clan, BRPM being the initial ticker symbol behind the SPAC, issues an updated S4 filing to the SEC, which radically changed the financial picture. This is a long document with a whole lot contained within it, but here's some key factors. This is going to be a lot of me quoting the document. I apologize. Really, it's not even easy reading, but it's kind of necessary, so let's just dive in. Quote, "We currently expect our actual 2022 results to differ materially from the FaZe forecasts for several reasons, including, among other things, based on current market trends, we expect levels of redemptions by public stockholders in connection with the business combination higher than the minimum proceeds condition, and accordingly, we may have less than $218 million in transaction proceeds, which may cause significant delays in or limit the scope of our planned acquisition strategy and our planned international expansion." End quote. So, in summary, that's international expansion kind of out the window. Remember, that was one of their big 5 current opportunities, which would help them grow from $500 million revenue to $650 million in what, 4 to 5 years? Let's read on here. Quote, "We expect revenues to be lower than projected in the FaZe forecasts by at least 20% as a result of changes to original programming planned for 2022 in order to reduce higher than anticipated costs in connection with one of the planned scripted shows, slower than anticipated retail growth in consumer products, and delays in our planned international expansion as a result of less than anticipated proceeds available from the trust account. Additionally, we currently expect our actual 2023 results to differ materially from the FaZe forecast for several reasons, including, among others, the continued and cumulative effects of the factors described in the immediately preceding paragraph, including less than anticipated transaction proceeds and increased costs of revenue, higher than projected general and administrative expenses as a result of the full year impact of employee and executive hires and public company expenses, including directors and officers' liability insurance, and lower than projected revenues as a result of reduced production slate and budget size for content, challenges with expanding our consumer products business due to existing arrangements in place." End quote. Yikes. Okay, so international expansion seems like it's taken a big hit. Revenue, almost $10 million less, 20% less than what they originally projected. And my favorite part is that liability insurance is a concern, or even mentioned here, because even though it's probably not related directly, I just can't help but remember that one of their largest verticals is a bunch of teenagers partying together in a $30 million mansion, living a disgustingly extravagant lifestyle. Yeah, no fucking shit your projections are off here. What do you mean? Last part, quote, "Our failure to achieve our projected results could harm the trading price of New FaZe securities and New FaZe's financial position following the completion of the business combination." End quote. That pretty much sums everything up. Like, that's probably the best quote to look at. Inaccurate revenue projections, very inaccurate, I might add, have most likely killed their expansion, not killed, but significantly harmed their expansion plans, damaged the future of their stock offering, and resulted in an uncertain future for the deal itself. They raise tens of millions of dollars in funding constantly, value themselves at over $1 billion on the public market, more than twice that of a company that is itself 2 times as financially successful, and then even those projections are drastically wrong, leading to a reality where FaZe Clan is as the title suggests, brutally overvalued. Someone can say that they believe in the future of FaZe Clan, and I wouldn't necessarily fault them for it, but the stone cold truth of the matter is that they have overvalued their company on a nearly comical scale at this point. Compared to almost any other acquisition that you can find, and I did look for them, the financials just do not make sense. Even if you believed the projections that they give, which you very obviously now shouldn't, they would still have been overvalued by a ridiculous margin. And though I do think it's likely that the deal continues on regardless, it was interesting to look inside the largest merger and acquisition that esports has supposedly ever seen and realize that even the leaders of the pack are still operating under ridiculous parameters that are not backed up or supported by anything other than very, very dumb money. Logically, if you extend this kind of projection failure out to something like, I don't know, a briefing you put together for a brand, which I have to do all the time for different, pitches that I put out there when I get a sponsor, then you're looking at something where the business model is suckering in money in the tens, even hundreds of millions. And what are they really giving back? They're giving back uncertainty, party lifestyle, ridiculous purchases out that, honestly, it really just doesn't make any sense at all. Scandals aside, FaZe Clan operates in an industry that likes to burn cash in a dumpster. Esports may be appealing, fun, and rapidly expanding. I'm not saying it isn't, right? It's a very quickly growing industry, but so far it isn't profitable, at least most businesses in the space. The players often profit, okay? Don't get me wrong. Players often profit a tremendous amount, but the business model in general, it doesn't appear to be thriving the same way that others would have you believe. In my opinion, the industry does have a future, but to access that future, a lot of things are going to have to change radically because, as it stands, mostly it doesn't work. Anyway, that's it. If you want to support, there are links down below, primarily locals and Patreon if you enjoy the content. There's also Odyssey, a YouTube platform alternative. There is another creator to support, merchandise, social media, etc., etc. But I'll cut it there and stop rambling here. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.